you had written a lovely guest post, which is available right now at middlegradeninja.com, esteemed audience. Go and check it out as soon as you're done listening to this interview or while you're doing it. It's your life. You do it as you see fit. But you talked about the horrors of writing middle grade horror, why books that aimed at children can't be awash in blood. And you had 4 tips there for 4 steps to kind of step back and make sure that your horror is going to be appropriate for a younger audience. So what tips can you offer, esteemed audience, about making sure that you haven't gone too far? And when do you know that you've gone too far? And if so, has it happened that you had to pull yourself back?
Not so much. Interestingly enough, there was in Dr. Fell, when I was doing that, there was one bit that I knew they're going to say, I don't get it. They think that's not going to fly. And they did. And I was like, I really want to keep that. You know, I know it's not quite kosher here. It's not quite whatever it's supposed to be, but I won the argument. It's still in there. And I was very proud of that. It's this bizarre feeling of what pain is. And it's how it can be a physical element that is pain and death. You know, and it's dark. It gets very dark. Dr. Phil gets very dark at the end, but it's still very vibrant, fun, has an uplifting ending and so forth, sort of. So I've never, other than that, never really had anything to take back. I think you've gone too far, esteemed audience. If the children start crying, that's a good step, good sign that maybe you've gone too far. If a book is thrown across the room in disgust or fear, probably you went too far. Yeah, I don't do a lot of blood in my books. That's one thing that I definitely do. People, I don't do a lot of dying. Kids, when a character dies in a middle grade book, it has to be important because death is a very important thing at that age. You can't just willy-nilly, oh, and this guy dies, moving on. No, every death has a meaning, has a purpose, is important. Good guys or bad guys or innocent bystanders or whatever. So, and I don't use them very often. I don't think, I don't have a whole lot of people dying in my books. I honestly don't remember the guest posts. I don't remember what I wrote. And then going back, I had 4 ideas. I bet they were good now.
Sir, that was written, let's see here, that was August 8th of 2016. You're telling me here that in 2021 you've had other thoughts since then? I am shocked.
5 years is, in 5 years I haven't figured it out. No, but writing horror for middle grade has always been a balance. There has to be some humor in it for the most part. But at the same time, I know some people who write stuff that doesn't have humor in it, and it's just good, spooky. You're looking for spooky or creepy more than horrific and god awful, mind-numbingly evil. You want that chill down the spine that it gets, and some of my books have elements of that in there. They'll bits in there that will make you go, But at no point, hopefully, are you really like. That's just not going to happen because you've got to tone it down to a bit. But kids need to be stretched. They want to be stretched. So, I'm not. You never talk down to kids. I don't write down to kids. I assume they're going to come up to the level that I'm at. And sometimes I get in trouble for that. Sometimes my stuff is too old, they think. Lillian Lovecraft is specifically, I pushed her. She is 14. Which is, in middle grade, every hero is 12 in middle grade. They're all 12 or about to be 12. Because with middle grade, you don't have to worry about romance. There's no romance in middle grade. The romance saved for YA, but characters in YA are 17, 18, 19. Where are the books of the characters who happen to be 14 or 15? They don't exist. Well, so Lillian's 14. She's a freshman in high school. And just starting, so there's elements, very minor elements. She's aware of certain things, and her relationships are going to be different than the relationships of 12-year-old would be, or in some of my books, 8-year-olds have very different, who they are. That's one of the things about Beyond the Doors is it's written with 4 different characters point of view, chapter by chapter. I kind of go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got like 12, 11, 9, and 7. So each time it's a different voice, and it's a different how they're going to see things in a different way. The younger sees things certain ways than the older ones. So that's where that comes from. I think I answered the question.
Self-censoring and kind of having some basic guidelines that you stick to.
Yes.
With let's have some humor. Let's avoid blood. Do you use some sort of a beta reader? How do you? I mean, you say we don't want them to cry, or we don't.
I do. I have lots. I have a volley of readers. A couple adults, but mostly kids. My books are read by kids. They're going to be the audience, so I have my beta readers are generally kids, which means every few years I have to get new beta readers because they grow up. I wish they would stop doing that. Oh, they were such good readers, and now they're like, but yeah, it was easier when my kids were that age because all their friends were that age. And now I got to like find kids who were that age, and that's hard to do. And you got a guy with a purple top hat hanging around the elementary schools and middle schools, and people think things. So, and I get responses from them, and I've had generally like they'll say they love it. It's they like it this, or they'll say they don't get this. Every now and then you'll get that one precocious 7th grader is like, you had a typo on this page and there was a typo over here, and I don't know why this character did this instead of that. And you're like, thank you for fixing the typos, but did you like the book? And I've had people think, like I had an 8-year-old read a book, one of my other books, that frankly she was like, this is too old for me. She knew that. Her mom knew that. It was really 11, 12-year-old, meant for that. And at 8, she was, even though she was an advanced reader, it was too old for her. So, something about having a severed foot throughout the beginning of it threw her off. So I get sense from my beta readers, from the kids, if this is going to work. And at this point also, I've done so many, I have an idea of what works. It's sort of I've done the trial and error. Now I got the formula to an extent. I know what's too much, what isn't enough, where to go. And I push it. I tend to push it a little older. So I think there is a place. I think a lot of kids always want to read older. Kids want to read about a main character who's a couple years older than them. And we get a lot of kids who read through middle school and stop reading in high school, because when they're 13, they're not really ready to read Twilight. Or if they are, they don't care. They're not at that level of what the relationship, which is all Twilight is. But at the same time, they're done with Lemony Snicket because those kids are so young. So my books are set, a lot of them, for those kids who don't have as much for them to read. When you get stuff like that, it's the brilliance of like Harry Potter. The first couple books are middle grade books. As the audience got older, the books got older. Books couldn't keep up with the audience, but still the same thing is the concept that by the time you get to the end, if they've read all the others and they're no 8-year-old is diving into Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. They're devouring Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and then moving their way up. It's almost an education. So, and the Rick Riordan's Lightning Thief series does the same thing. Percy Jackson series starts young and then builds older and older. So, but my books, I don't have that concept of starting young and then going older yet. I do have a couple of ideas, and I have one book that would work for that. But at this point, these are one-off books, so I don't have a chance to build my audience to the right age. So I'm ready for them to dive in and take this. And I hope they enjoy it. I think they will.
Do you not have plans to bring Lillian Lovecraft back for more?
I do. I have a sequel. I was actually writing it and I got sidetracked with something else because I was getting stuck with one plot point, and I was like, let's move on to something else. Because sometimes you don't want to just bang your head against the wall for so long. try to get one thing, just move on to something else, and then it'll fix itself in the back of your mind where you're subconscious. But yes, there will be. I would like Lillian Lovecraft to have a number of adventures. She and Frank have a lot of things they have to do to save the world. There's a much larger thing at play. So this book sets in motion what's going to happen in the next series, the next few books.